first panel discussion that will take place. This is going to be moderated by Bernd Oswald. He's going to come to stage, and with it, it's going to be a discussion on AI and ethics, together with Branislava Lovre, Maria Salinas, Dariusz Jemielniak, and Lucia Kobzová. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering name. I'm French, so you know. Here's the. You'll have each microphone.
Hello, I'm Bernd from the AI for Media Network. I'll talk a bit about myself in a minute, but first of all, I want to introduce my panelists here in alphabetical order. We have Dariusz Jemielniak. He's a full professor in the Department of Management and Digital and Network Societies at Kozminski University here in Warsaw. And he's also the head of the Human and AI Institute at Campus AI, startup, a collaborative learning and innovation platform. Welcome, Dariusz. Please give a hand. Thank you. Then we have right next to him, Lucia Kobzová, a tech journalist from Slovakia. She writes for jive.sk, that's a tech magazine and tech and science magazine from Slovakia. She also works as an external consultant and trainer at the Slovak Ministry for Education, Research, Development and Youth, and describes herself as a responsible technology advocate. Welcome, Lucia. Then, from Serbia, Branislava Lovre, journalist, AI ethicist, and newsroom AI consultant. She is the co-founder of AImpactful, a newsroom about AI's impact on media. Welcome, Branislava. And last but not least, please welcome Maria Salinas. She is the Senior Manager for New Partnerships and Creative Projects at Tactical Tech. That's an international non-profit organization advocating rethinking technology. Anna works at Tactical Tech's office in Berlin, Germany, and she's a native of Colombia. I'm Bernd Oswald. I'm the manager of the AI for Media Network. We are one of the partners of this conference. And the AI for Media Network was founded by Bavarian Broadcasting. And if you could please switch to the slides for our network. Just want to say, make a few remarks that you know, what we are doing there. We call ourselves a hub for AI know-how in journalism. We were founded at the beginning of 2024 by Bavarian Broadcasting. And we did this because we saw a very great demand for AI practical knowledge in the journalism industry. And we want to find answers together to the question, how can AI make journalism better? Or how can AI elevate journalism? So very similar to this, the topic of this conference. We have more than 1,100 members, broadcasters, publishers, academia, and also the AI industry. So what do we do there? We have a quite practical approach. We do some workshops. Science meets journalism was one. Mostly we organize meetups, online and in person, where we showcase use cases, news products where AI has been used. We do a lot of Q&A, we do networking, and we do hackathons where we develop some prototypes. One example is here. It's a fact-checking tool called Second Opinion, where AI checks AI-generated content. And last but not least, we try to facilitate some cooperations, not only exchange use cases, but facilitate cooperations. For example, quite recently we built a chatbot on the Oktoberfest in Munich. We call it the Wiesn, the Munich Beer Festival. And this was a cooperation between Bavarian Broadcasting and the publisher Ippen Media. And the idea was to set up a common database with Wiesn or Oktoberfest-related articles, both from Bavarian Broadcasting and from Ippen, and make it available for the users so that they can ask questions and get answers that are grounded on our common content. So that's the most recent example. And we foster also cooperations between media and academia, for example. There was a project about an automatic speech recognition of Bavarian dialects and how these systems fail in transcribing audio spoken in Bavarian dialect. Yeah, we had some great expertise there, and maybe we'll fine-tune the open source models to make them better in transcribing. So that's it. If you are interested and want to participate in our network, it's open to everyone. Just drop me a line, sign up for our newsletter. We've got a LinkedIn group as well. Write me an email. So all the contacts are there. So that's what we do at the network. But now let's come to our panel. I just showed one example that we built, the Brezen bot, we call it. What good examples do you know? What's a favorite example of you, for example, Branislava, where AI is used in a meaningful way in journalism?
First of all, hello to everyone. I'm really happy because I have a chance to be here today. I follow your work and you're doing amazing things. And when you're talking about meaningful use of AI, I would just summarize it in one sentence: do more with less. It's a great honor to see what colleagues did in the previous years when we're talking about, for example, big newsrooms, which made their own AI tools, or, for example, made different kind of cooperation with big tech companies, and even shared those tools to other small newsrooms. But I would like to emphasize that is equally important when small newsrooms or freelancers can use any of those AI tools which are available to them. We're talking about small budget. So when they use any of AI options, for example, for translation or summarization, or to improve their content, or to pre-prepare some interesting visuals, or to have chance to dig into data thanks to the AI tools, I think that that is one of the most important moments when we're talking about that field. So I would choose and try to explain that on that way.
Okay, thank you. Dariusz, you wrote about a book about academic writing with AI. In what part of academic writing is AI most useful for you?
Well, good morning, everyone. And regarding academia, I think it's a very tough thing, because there's a temptation that you're going to just use it to do it all, like fire and forget. Just make it happen, just write it up. That's what I tell my PhD students, just write it up. And then this is what the AI models are good for. But I think the result obviously is very disappointing if it's uncurated. So I think in academia, it's extremely useful if large language models are extremely useful, but if you use them meaningfully. So for preliminary literature research, amazing. Like, check what's out there, right? See, click, check. Some of them will not exist, some of them will be made up, some of them will be misconstrued, but some will be just fine. So this is a very good use. Second, writing it up literally. If English is not your first language, why not let those who are better at it, including large language models, just spice it up? Just recently, I was writing an op-ed for Nature. Honest to God, I definitely used LLM. I used Claude. just to improve the language. Because, you know, I'm not a native speaker. Why should I bother? You know, just spice it up a little bit. Also, if you're doing exploratory research, for example, this is my topic. Tell me what could be good ideas for research. Why not, right? Bouncing by ideas. I give the general picture and I brainstorm. Super useful. Also, I upload a draft of a paper that I have and I say, be critical. What can I improve here? Super useful. It's just like with regular academic reviewers, right? Half of them are idiots, right? But half of them say something useful. So this is the same kind of thing. Some of this feedback will be extremely useful. Some of this will be absolute crap. And with this assumption, I think it's fair to say, with enough caution, those models are extremely useful, including academic work.
Okay. Lucia, can you please provide an example where AI was used merely for the sake of it, but didn't make sense in your opinion?
First of all, thank you for having me. Really glad to be here. I will start more generally because recently there has been a report from MIT saying that 95% of firms, when they implemented generative AI, it didn't bring any profit to them, right? So it was a waste of money. And this is a general issue that because of the hype, we are trying to implement AI pretty much everywhere because there will be more attention, maybe more investments, and so on and so forth. But in many cases, it doesn't really make sense. And I will use one example outside of journalism, and then I will get to the journalism. But recently, there has been a new AI system for helping to prevent breast cancer amongst women. We have a huge issue in Slovakia, and it's a topic where there is not much awareness among the public. So it was one of the uses where you would say it can be useful, and there was a virtual assistant that was aiding you with the questions you might have about going to see a doctor, about the prevention, because there has been some legislative changes recently. But in reality, what they could have done is just put the series of frequently asked questions on the website, and it would be solved. You wouldn't have to invest in a model because it doesn't give you any, added value as a person who has questions. And they just wasted a lot of money. Of course, they brought an attention to it, but at the same time, it wasn't very useful. And it's the same case for journalism. Like, we are testing a lot of different tools. We're trying to see where it benefits us, where it can save us a lot of time. But for instance, as was mentioned during the first presentation, for writing articles, it's not very beneficial because people are losing trust, because people are not interested in something that was generated by AI. They can generate it themselves, but they are interested in journalists. They're interested in specific persons and their points of view, or maybe their topics that they are bringing to the public. And I think this is one of the cases where it doesn't really make sense when I see that some media are turning towards AI-generated articles. We are losing the trust of the public, and I think this is one of the dangerous spaces to be in.
Okay. Anna, you do a lot of trainings at Tactical Tech. One of your upcoming trainings is named To AI or Not to AI. Can you please give an example when not to AI?
Thank you, Bernd. So, yeah, basically, I would like to start saying that we are witnessing this hype moment, right? So we feel that we need to introduce AI to every single aspect of our journalistic work, and that can be extremely overwhelming for media and for journalists. It's like we wake up with this anxiety of understanding all the tools and understanding how we want to use them. And in the middle of this urgency, we feel that we need to do it right now, and that's the problem. The problem is not that media and journalists are using these AI tools, but that there is not enough thought process behind. There is not enough strategy or planning where we can sit together and then identify what are the risks of using these tools. As Lucia was saying, when we talk about AI tools to generate content, we are risking the fact that if we create a new article or if we summarize a piece using these tools, but there is not a human element, then we can end up disseminating and spreading misinformation. We can end up also reproducing stereotypes and biases. And what happened in reality is that that tool that in theory is going to help us to do our work faster and easier It's going to first increase the workload of the newsrooms because we have these situations, like, for example, Bloomberg, that this year they are using this AI assistant to summarize pieces of news. The first weeks that they implemented this tool, they had to issue several corrections because probably there was not a human checking that the summaries were evidence-based, that they were accurate. So instead of reducing the workload, it increases the workload of newsrooms. They have to verify, they have to issue these corrections, they have to remove the content. So this is one. The second one I want to mention is the use of AI to generate images. It can be very problematic, but also very helpful. Let's start with the problematic side. When we as journalists, we decide to use AI tools to create images because we know that we are going to better illustrate the content of our articles, we can label it, right? In our website, we can say this image was created by AI. But in the moment that that image that is not real, is a deep fake, is synthetic media, is removed from the article, and it is spread all over the internet, we lose our control on the image, right? And then that can create confusion, misinformation. But on the other hand, we have excellent cases like Conectas, that in the case of covering the Venezuelan elections, they created AI avatars to cover the process and protect the journalists. We have cases of the BBC using AI tools to mask their sources and protect the identity of the sources. So the question is not when not to do it, but how to do it. So if we are going to do it, let's sit together and ask how we're going to do it, what is the motivation, and it makes sense, or we're going to waste time, we're going to waste resources, and affect our relationship with the audiences.
Yeah, the how is very important. When it comes to the ethical use of AI, it's a lot about accountability and human oversight. Lucia, before journalists publish content created with the help of AI, what checks must be performed?
So firstly, I think you have to verify the information all the time because we know about the hallucinations of models. It's a huge issue. And no matter which one you use, there will be instances when it generates something that doesn't exist. When you, for instance, do a deep research and it says that in a study there is a specific number, and then you go to the study and you see that there is not such a number in the study, right? And this is a huge issue. So you have to always verify the information, go to the sources, read it yourself. Like I never ever used the information from any AI tool and put it into the article without being sure that it's true, that when I didn't fact check it with other resources. So I would say that's the first thing. You have to always verify the information because of the hallucinations. And that's kind of interesting, and we have to be aware of these hallucinations because there has been a recent study by OpenAI saying that if they implemented the possibility to say, I don't know, to their models, it wouldn't be hallucinating so much. So, just a little bit about the design itself. But I would say this is definitely the most important to verify information wherever you try to use it. That's the thing we do.
We know this hallucination danger. Branislava, who is in the end responsible for mistakes made by AI? The LLM, the software that made it, or the journalist that failed to correct it?
Well, when we're talking about usage of AI, there is one clear rule that every newsroom is accountable for content which have different kind of opinions right now. When we're talking about labeling content, and when we're talking about usage of AI in general, I think that it would be somehow perfect just to have different kind of approaches. So we have some colleagues who say that it's not necessary just to label or to speak about that part because we will have human oversight in every process, in every step of producing those content which will be published. On the other side, we have a huge amount of people who says that we should emphasize usage of AI only in those circumstances when we have huge amount of usage of AI, for example, for production of text, audio, video, etc. And we have those in the middle who says that we should explain every usage because it's so important to keep our human in the loop on the first place and to try to explain to our audience what is happening and how we can approach that thing. When talking about my own work, I have that one small media project, a small newsroom, and we're just using that space to try to explain to everyone how we're using AI. It's possible to us because we're a really small team. So in every case, even when we produce photo, we just emphasize which of those AI tools which we used, how we use it, and how did we, for example, checked any of those feedbacks which we got or what did we improve. We will see what will happen when we get bigger. So this is one of the most important questions when we're talking about labeling, when we're talking about keeping newsrooms accountable. But it's also often that we have newsrooms which don't have enough resources when we're talking about time, when we're talking about budgets, just to do that labeling on every day. What does it mean? It means that they can find some other solution. For example, they can prepare some sort of AI policy or AI guideline or just several words which could be published on their website. And that way, their audience will have chance to read what is going on, how they use that AI, and that is great. We're talking about usage of AI and educating people. So, okay. Thank you so much. I think that it will be better right now. When you're talking about educating people about usage of AI, we have unique moment and unique opportunities to share our experience because AI tools becoming more and more perfect when we're talking about every day and every month. And if we have platforms, like, for example, our newsrooms, we can just share what we are learning together and try to educate our people. So we can show them how we can fact-check content which we get. If we get, for example, some false information, we also can explain to them step by step how did we process that verification. And I think that this is a unique opportunity for all of us to learn together and to share all that experience.
We'll cover AI literacy in a moment. Anna, what do you think? How does the audience react to labels generated with AI or with the help of AI? Do these labels increase or decrease trust in journalism?
Unfortunately, that decreases because there are studies that say that even if media label the content as AI generated, that creates this rejection from the audiences. So instead of increasing the trust, decreases trust. But it's not only that issue, that is not enough. Because as I was saying, even if we label it, as soon as we take that piece outside the context, it can be so problematic and so dangerous. So there are different initiatives that talk about how we can create tags that are permanent tags, but this is something that needs to be created together with the companies behind these tools, the companies that are behind the digital technologies we use, the search engines, and how to create this system where the tags are permanently linked to the content that is AI generated. However, as we saw at the beginning, there is this increasing mistrust in content that is not generated by humans, which is, to my understanding, is positive because that means that people are critically reading and seeing what's happening and are craving for our work, for human work. So it's good, but it's good for transparency reasons, definitely. And the the new act on AI requires for media to be transparent, but it has to be extended, not only the tag, but explaining the whole context of why we're using this tool.
Or what about vice versa, the vice versa concept? Should we, in the future, as journalists, maybe only label pieces that were 100% created by humans, so as a kind of trademark? Like Katharina Schell, she's the deputy editor-in-chief of the Austria Press Agency, and she was at one of our meetups where we also discussed ethical questions, and her saying was, let's not label AI, let's label journalism, human journalism, journalism created 100% by humans. Do you think we'll enter this stage sometime soon?
This is so important question, and it's great opportunity today to try to speak as much as possible about this topic, and if at the end we'll have some sort of conclusion or some sort of devices, that would be something like perfect outcome. But when we're talking about labeling, for example, my main point is that we should label content which is AI generated when we're talking about text, audio, video. Yes, that's definitely true. When we label that some content is AI generated, that it decreases trust. What does it mean for us? That we should speak more about that topic, that we should educate our communities, that we should educate our people, because at the end, if they think that AI is something bad, or that AI is something which we shouldn't use on everyday basis, sooner or later, they will see different kind of videos which are deepfakes, and we will be at the position that we have disinformation and misinformation chaos, which we cannot stop. In the case that we should emphasize that that content is fully human-generated, well, I don't know, maybe it will happen in, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, at least I hope so. I think that we are at the great position right now that we use all those technical capabilities and AI in order to just support our work. So we can do different kind of jobs, but that human oversight should be on the first place. But yes, maybe we'll know what will happen in 5 or 10 years. Maybe that human-generated content will be the only important things, but I hope so that we will never be in that situation to somehow leave AI to produce content, and that could be possible if we don't do different kind of education and if we not just go one step before all those things which is happening at the moment.
Thank you. Another topic is that AI can be used to generate misinformation, disinformation. I think, Dariusz, you did some research on how AI is used to generate disinformation in different regards. Can you give us some examples from your work, and is AI also suitable to detect AI-generated misinformation?
A great question. And by the way, when I started studying misinformation, disinformation, I don't know, probably a decade ago, it was so easy. No, it was really nice. I thought I'm set for life with this path of research, not much work, easy publications. But it's not so easy anymore for a very simple reason. Now, the misinformation, disinformation, especially text-based, but also image-based, video-based, is massively produced with the use of large language models. And I can tell you from my research of climate change denialism, 2023 marked a year when the number of misinformation posts was 20 times larger than in the previous year. It's an avalanche, and we do not even see, because many of us are in different bubbles, we do not even notice that it is happening. The same, of course, applies to vaccine misinformation, migration misinformation. One of the things that we were studying for a while was the Polish context. There was a huge vaccine disinformation, which nearly overnight turned into anti-Ukrainian disinformation. So we were trying to analyze whether this is something that is obviously Russia-inspired, both, or whether it's organic. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to prove, right? We see the smoke, but we do not see the smoking gun. And also, there is 8% of support for a party in Poland that supports both anti-migration and anti-vaccination. So it's, some people actually do believe both. And this is why it's very difficult. However, we do use AI and we use different data science methods to detect, for example, networks which are cooperating. It's so-called social network analysis. So we're extracting. We do not know, is it organic, is it non-organic, but we know that these accounts are cooperating in such a way that we see they are most likely coordinated somehow. No smoking gun, but a smoke. What do we also do? Of course, we analyze the content. We do content analysis. We compare, for example, if so it happens that within a couple of seconds, 100 accounts publish a very similar string, then again, smoke, not a smoking gun, but it's very indicative. It used to be the same sentence. Now it's not anymore. The same sentence, of course, sometimes it happens. It's a cheap campaign, but increasingly it's changed. The wording was changed, so it's much more difficult to search for specific strings, but nevertheless, we can see a repeated narrative. That's why I think there's a huge chance for qualitative research to come back in style. Because when somebody actually does read, somebody goes deep, reads this, and analyzes it, and you can see the pattern beyond just the order of words. That's why I'm a huge proponent of the so-called thick big data approach. Thick for thick analysis, qualitative, and big data, obviously, for using data science. And at Campus AI, we're propagating human plus AI factor. Actually, what you said, that we should be marking stuff that was made by humans, I'm very doubtful. I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever. What are we going to go back to typewriting? Everybody's using a word processor, right? Are you not using Grammarly? It's going to be AI anyway. So it's going to be a blend, human plus AI. The only thing, of course, is the human in the loop. Who is in charge? Is the human in charge, or is it just like regurgitating, sentences of somebody else? And as long as it is a human, the AI factor is basically, leveraging, amplifying our potential in a way. And of course, in misinformation and disinformation research, it's definitely an arms race on both ends. Even from the last months, increasingly more difficult to detect video that is generated really well. It used to be that we were looking for, not blinking, that we were looking for some markers. Now, the deepfakes are so good that they are changing the shade of skin as if the heart was beating. That's how good it is. And of course, nobody really programmed this specifically. It's the pattern after pattern after pattern that emerged from analyzing different videos. So it's really tough. My guess is that 2025, 26 is the year when we can actually drop the premise that we will be able to detect really good deepfakes. I don't think it's going to be possible anymore. However, of course, it also means, which is something very good, it means that we're not going to necessarily take things on the face value, right? My hope, of course, it's a very crazy hope, but my hope is that at some point we're going to experience a big turn back to who said it? What was the source? Was it trustworthy media? Because just the face value, just the sentences, just the image, just the video will not matter. Anybody can generate anything. It matters who says it.
Okay. A question for Lucia. AI-generated misinformation can also undermine the trust in media. For example, there's a lot of polarization going on in Western societies and in the public discourse. So if someone doesn't trust a medium, he or she can claim, this piece you wrote about politician XYZ is fake and generated with AI. Do you consider this tendency a threat for the trustworthiness of legacy media?
Could you repeat the last part of the sentence?
Do you consider this a threat for the trustworthiness of media if people say, no, that what you wrote as media, as journalists isn't true, you used AI, that what you do is fake, you used generative AI to report that?
I think we are generally moving into the issue of trust in our public because of all of those AI-generated pictures, videos, but also news or the information that don't exist. I think it's a huge issue in general for our democracies, not only for the media, but for democracies as such, because it's becoming harder and harder to defend that this was really true, that this wasn't generated by AI. So for instance, in Slovakia, there was a case before election, and it affected one media house specifically, because there was a deepfake, you might have seen it, right like 2 days before the elections, showing one of the prominent reporters in Slovakia with the opposition party leader, and they were allegedly discussing the corruption and how they will corrupt the election. Of course, it didn't happen. It was AI generated, but it was already moratorium 2 days before elections. It undermined the credibility of the media. So, some people might have decided not to read whatever they wrote before about the elections and might not have trusted the sources, even though they are trustworthy media, right? And I think this is very difficult to work with the trust because sometimes you can't believe your eyes. Like, for instance, you have, it was mentioned, the new model Nano Banana. If you play with it, I tested it a couple of days ago, and if you play with it, it creates such a realistic pictures. Like, I try to generate my own pictures, right, just to see like how it can go, and it basically remade the pictures when I was 16 to something that I can use now for for LinkedIn or whatever, right? Really, really trustworthy in a sense. And I think this is a huge issue because, especially for journalists, and maybe we haven't talked about it that much, but in many countries we see more and more threats towards journalists. And when you have a circulating deepfake, which is completely invented, there is nothing true about it, it's way harder to defend. And then when your credibility is undermined, people will not read your articles, the numbers goes down, and this is it's very hard to prove because we have the anchoring bias, right? One of our cognitive limitations that when we see an information firstly, it doesn't matter whether it's true or false, we tend to believe it. And this is a huge issue with whatever we see generated by the AI. And maybe I would add to what was said before about some other things, because when we are thinking about all the information, even though as a journalist, when I'm using AI to, I don't know, do a research or find a little bit about the specific article I'm trying to write, we still have to be aware of these cognitive limitations, right? Because we don't only have the anchoring bias, but we have also automation bias, which is making us to believe more that whatever AI generates is true. And it happened to me a couple of times. Then, I just researched something, and I was aware that the information is probably not true, but I started doubting myself. I started thinking, okay, but the AI is working with so many resources. It is possible. It's able to analyze way larger amounts of data than I am. Is it perhaps true? Like, should I go? And I went to 10 other resources trying to fact check it, whether it's true, whether maybe it wasn't a hallucination, but just my wrong analysis. And it's taking way, way longer than to write an article with the AI than without it. So, maybe coming back to the first question, it's one of the cases when it really doesn't make sense because of all of these cognitive limitations.
Talking about biases, Anna, what kind of biases are there in LLMs? You are quite skeptical about big tech LLMs. So, what biases are most problematic from your point of view?
Of course, when we talk about the bias in AI, that means basically, let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the fact that these large language models are trained with data sets and information that is available out there. So that information reflects our society. So it's not like the big tech is doing that. That information reflects the biases that we already have in terms of race, in terms of gender, in terms of countries of origin. There are so many issues that if we continue using these tools, ignoring this element, this challenge, we are going to end up in a situation where polarization is even more evident. The gap is going to continue growing. Conflicts are going to continue growing if we don't solve that issue and we continue reproducing these ideas that link certain people with certain stereotypes that we assume as real. So definitely, for us, that's one of the main concerns. And that happens, we have an exercise with media, and we ask people to prompt and ask ChatGPT or other kind of large language models to create images that represent, for instance, we ask them to represent a Colombian family. And then the output is like, I don't know if you've seen this movie, Encanto. So that's how basically all Colombian families look like. And when they create this image, or the large language model create this image, there is a background of race, the status, economical status also, because what they represent is not the average family in Colombia. But let's say that we use that for our article talking about Colombian families. What is the message that we're gonna deliver to the audiences? So that's something that we as media that create content, create conversations, have to be aware of, definitely. Especially when it comes to the visual side, but also when it comes to the balance in the articles. Because if we use, for instance, something that happens a lot, when we talk about the sources that are included in the articles, most of the time we see that most of the sources are male sources. While when we talk about women, women are quoted in different contexts. So that happens also there, because the information that is used to train the models have the same structure, a structure that is mainly focused on male characters as sources, female characters as subjects or victims, and yeah, that creates this reproduction that is very dangerous.
Thank you. Dariusz, you also did some research on biases in LLMs. A lot of the LLMs, the most common ones are from the US, from big tech, also Google, but of course OpenAI, Claude. There are quite few LLMs from Europe. The problem with most of these LLMs is that they have opaque training data. You don't know exactly the sources, the training material. What do you think? Should European media, perhaps in collaboration with universities, develop their own LLMs with high quality training data and make this data that was used for training transparent for everyone?
Yeah, so obviously, at some point we thought people don't have enough information. Obviously, this is not it, right? The problem is elsewhere. If we look at what Microsoft did with its chatbot, within hours it became a Nazi, basically. You know, starting cursing people and blaming everything on the Jews. So we know that the internet as a whole is garbage, totally garbage. But we also know that we cannot really train LLMs without large data sets. So there's a huge problem of curation. You're proposing that maybe there should be some research alliance that would help curate it, but I see very practical obstacles to do it. It's extremely costly. Reviewing everything is much, much more expensive than pirating all books published by humanity, for example. Which, by the way, Meta did, right? We know Meta, Claude, you know, just pirated all the books. So if we were to blame someone, honestly, we have to take a hard look on ourselves. You know, we are to be blamed. The LLMs are a reflection of the average human. That's scary. George Carlin, an American comedian, once said, imagine how stupid an average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider. And that's the problem, honestly. This is the reflection of the society. Humans are garbage. That's what we learn from LLMs. I'm sorry to say that. But on average, of course, on average. An average human is what it is. So jokes aside, I think we don't have a really good solution, because if we turn on a high curation mode, this will not necessarily be the reflection of what people want. This will not be the reflection of what LLMs should be doing, which is pretty much averaging it all out. So I think we're doomed, honestly. We're doomed. Let's mark calendars, you know, Mayan calendar. It's the last person turns off the lights and we're done. I don't think there's anything we can do easily to fix it.
Okay. Let's move on to AI literacy. In the new, for Branislava question, the question in the newsrooms, you are familiar with Ukraine. Are the journalists knowledgeable about how LLMs function? Do they understand the concepts? How do you assess their level of AI literacy, and what measures can be taken to enhance it?
It's almost incredible how much all journalists and newsrooms worldwide just go into this flow when we're talking about usage of AI. And we definitely have experts worldwide, and we definitely have experts in every newsroom. It's just the question, are they open when we're talking about usage of AI, or is it usage of AI allowed in some newsrooms? If it's not allowed, they will definitely use it just in order to save time or to prepare something. And in the case when everything is allowed, then we have that some sort like open communication. Definitely, we also have colleagues who didn't start to use AI on some high level, but they are quite open when we're talking about this topic, because I think that all those shared knowledge are good as example or as a motivation what they also can implement in their newsrooms. When we're talking about that basic knowledge, and when we're talking about AI literacy, I just would like to emphasize that it would be great to try to cover all the important topics when we're talking about that. For example, for me, first step before use any of AI tools would be just to read their policy, just to see how they're open regarding all those data which they're collected, how they're open, or are they, when we're talking about copyrights. Because in the most cases, we have AI tools which we should pay, and at the end, we don't have any copyrights approvals. So reading AI policy of any of those AI tools before usage would be less or more first step. Then the second one would be all of those things which we already mentioned, just to pay special attention which content will we get. We should pay special attention on bias, also data. What will happen with our data, which we will put on any of those AI tools? For example, if we prepare some very interesting and very important topic, and if we have any of data which shouldn't be publicly available, then it's definitely that we never should put any of those content in any of LLMs. Also, there is one of great examples that, for example, they can customize any AI tools and use only their own data. Or that, for example, they can use some advanced options when we're talking about search or agent models, but always with special emphasis on human oversight. So when we're talking about AI literacy, I just would like to have some sort like full circle, just to see what those companies prepared for us when we're talking about possibilities, but also what are those bad sides when we're talking about copyrights, when we're talking about data, when we're talking about bias, and just to be aware what will happen with our content and what will happen at the end when we publish any of those pre-prepared contents, including text, audio, or video. So something like mixed picture, just in order to have accountability and to be on the first place when we're talking about sharing our knowledge and, of course, building trust.
So we have a little bit more than 5 minutes left, so I would just open the floor for the audience. Do you have any questions to our panelists regarding ethical use of AI? Maybe you can, here in the beginning, please. Second row.
Yes, hi, it's Thomas. Maybe a more broader question, and that is, it seems that where the human factor comes in is especially in the interaction between humans. So basically, when we go out and do a story, the AI cannot travel to, I don't know, Kharkiv to do research on the situation of people of Kharkiv during the war or things like that. So we need humans in that, And then, of course, we learned how we can use AI for, in the whole process, transcribing and all these, let's say, technical issues. But I'm wondering whether we maybe should focus more on the question of emotions, because this is what, the computer is very good in, let's say, the prefrontal cortex work, meaning rational arguing, etc. And of course, we know that, of course, it's getting better in semantics and feelings, getting the feelings of people. But still, this is the human, what makes us human. So I'm wondering, maybe this is the question: where do you think is, let's say, to cite the Luc Besson film, the fifth element in all this? Where is the kind of the human factor comes in? And that, of course, is an ethical question as well, because this is our unique thing. We are humans, and the computer does not have emotions per se. It can simulate them, but it will not have emotions, at least for the foreseeable future, when it's not a biological, organism.
Okay. Who wants to take the question?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I can start. So whenever we are using AI, we have to think about the fact that it's very superficial, like all the answers are very superficial. And I think this is the added value of a human being, that you are able to look at it from different perspectives based on your lived reality, based on your life experiences. And I think this is the greatest added value, what you can bring as a journalist towards the story, where the AI really cannot bring it. So for me, it would be definitely this. And whenever I'm trying to, look at the articles that were generated by the AI, it's always like even when we talked about the biases, right? So the AI, because it's trained predominantly on the English data or on the languages that are larger or more spread in the world, it doesn't really represent the reality of many people. So for instance, how does it represent the reality of a person living in a village in, I don't know, Zambia, right? And I think this is the issue, that it looks at the world from the maybe more Western perspective, and it doesn't really reflect the marginalized voices. So maybe this is another thing that we should be bringing more into the attention, to bring the marginalized voices, bring those voices that are not heard, that are unseen. So I would say this is where the human element really comes in, and this is where we have to be aware of the technical limitations of these AI systems.
Thank you. Another question? Yes, here.
My name is Nikolai. Thank you for a great discussion. The question is following. Now we're in Warsaw, European state, and we look on the AI ethics from the human rights and European values. What about the countries which are not based on the human rights? The authoritarian one, which trying to as well build their AI models, and how we can compete with them if we do have a limitation of ethics and they don't. Thank you.
Whom do you want to answer? Okay. Can you just repeat the question?
So you have ChatGPT, and then you have a GigaChat and DeepSeek from China and from Russia. And they have less boundaries from the value perspective or EU legislation. So how we can compete in terms of the AI development? Thank you.
Anna.
So when we were talking about the future, and what you say we're doomed, it's very difficult because, okay, of course, we can think, we can create these alternative models that compete with the proprietary ones, but it's not realistic. It's not realistic. But what we can do as journalists, related to what you say, is continue sparking conversations about the ethics, not the ethics that we have as media, but the ethics that the companies creating these tools are applying to create these systems. So it's an invitation, of course, because our role as journalists is continue investigating, continue understanding how these AI tools have an impact on the environment that we are very aware about, how the hidden labor behind these tools work, these digital workers that are exposed to very poor work conditions, the impacts on the information landscape. So our obligation and our call is to continue investigating that and inviting not only big tech, but also governments, authorities that regulate the development of these tools to continue having conversations, because otherwise we cannot do it alone. We cannot just create an alternative large language model. We need, as a society, bring all these actors together so we together can find ways to mitigate this risk, the impact on the environment, the privacy issues, misinformation. Otherwise, it's impossible to do it. Of course, it's a challenge, and time is up. But time is up, and then we have to do it.
Okay, thank you very much, Branislava, Anna, Lucia, and Dariusz. Please give a little bit of applause for joining and this discussion. Thank you for your questions, and I think now it's time for a coffee break. Thank you, everybody.